Hey guys, welcome to Wicked Queer 2022. Today we are interviewing the Latinx filmmakers. I'm Sophia, the one who curated this program, and I want to get right into it because this year is a special program. I'm really proud of it. Really happy with our filmmakers. Welcome everyone, welcome. The first question that I want to ask is about the film. Like, I want to know your inspirations. I want to know about your process. Like what made you make this film and be with us here today? If we can start with How to Breathe Out of Water, please. That we have the producer Ricardo with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Ricardo, I'm the producer. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. I'm currently in Brazil right now. And well, this movie is a graduation project from the University of São Paulo, which was directed by Victoria Negreiros and Julia Fávero. And they in our final year, I was in Victoria's class in her final year. She wanted to make a short film about the lesbian experience that everyone in the crew and everyone that was invited had. And then at first, the group was only was made by Victoria Negreiros, Julia Fávero, Juliana Lanzoni, and Luisa Freire. They're all lesbian or bisexual women, and they wanted to talk about that experience in our Brazilian society. And then I was invited right in the beginning of the process. And the movie talks about a Black queer young woman who is finally approached by the police. And after that, she needs to deal with her father, who is a policeman, inside her own house. So the movie talks about gender, racism, violence, police violence, Brazilian society, queer relations in our country, and especially in the periferia, the outskirts of the city of São Paulo. And we shot it in 2019, and then we had to edit it, and during the pandemic, so the process got a little bit longer than what we expected. But our film premiered in 2021 in the Kinoforum Festival here in São Paulo. We had a great run in the festivals here in Brazil. And then in January, we premiered internationally at the Clermont-Ferrand Film Festival. And now we're in our North American premiere in Wicked Queer. We're so glad to be here. And I think this is it, right? Is there any other question, any other point that you want me to talk about, Sophia? No?
Oh, this is great. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ivan. I'm from Colombia. I'm the director producer of Autoetnografía, or ethnography in English. This movie was part of a personal voyage. I was not okay. And the beginning of the pandemic, I was struggling a little bit with my own financial life. Not necessarily like questioning my career or my dreams, because I think my career, my dreams were like the basis and supported me. But what made me struggle the most was my own identity, my own financial stability, and also my family acceptance. You know, because as Latin Americans, we constantly dwell in families that confront us, like question us every decision we made. When we don't fit the norm, they make us like question ourselves if we're doing the right thing or not. So in my personal case, these were all things that were very lying down my consciousness. I was not really aware of that, but I was struggling with them. So I had a mental breakdown. I closed all my social medias. I shut down. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I live with my boyfriend and my dog. So they were like two entities that were there for me, but I didn't really want to talk to anybody else. I shut down, never answered calls, never answered messages. I was unemployed. So yeah, it's like that was like a very hard, dark moment for me. And in that process of trying to understand what was there for me or what was happening to me, I started like to review my personal footage, my family footage, some images that were shot when I was 3 years old, 7 years old, and those images really spoke to me. You know, like those were images of a little kid, always very interested in the camera that was shooting that kid, always interested in what was that device, what was the image like. All that sheer curiosity really moved me and inspired me and gave me hope as well in that dark moment I was telling you about. So that was like the seed, you know, like something that started growing and growing. I started like editing this material, deciding on the way, like, well, I can make a voiceover here, I can add some other archival footages, because as a filmmaker, I have like shot for the last 12 years. So that all the archival footage, my own work, and all my personal and family footage as well, started like having a dialogue in the timeline. So I started like trying to make something out of it. At some point, I decided to make a self-interview, which is on the film, which I sit down in front of a mirror and start interviewing myself and questioning who are you, what are you, what has led you to this moment you're living. And in that process, I started like making the film. You know, it wasn't something scripted at the very beginning. I didn't know at the beginning what was I doing. I didn't even think of it as, oh, I'm making a film. I was like just doing it because I needed to, and because I needed something to hold on to as well. And that also had a lot to do with my gender identity, because I started using they them pronouns prior to that. I was living that way prior to that, but I wasn't really aware of like how that really means to me. You know, like, does that mean I have to change my body? I have to change my appearance? I have to change my name? Those were all questions that were like around me. So yeah, like this movie helped me like to process things, deliver things, like put all of it together. It's also like a capsule of time. In 10 years, I will look at it and say, oh, I was thinking those things in 2020, because that was made in 2020. But yeah, like that was like the main process of the film. At the end, there was like a 12-minute cut that I showed to a close friend, and that close friend told me, "Oh, you can go send it to festivals." And I was like, "Really? This is like a very personal exercise, not even intended to be like film." But then I submitted it to some local open call. I won a prize. It was a cash prize. So with that cash prize, I started like investing in the movie, like composing music with my boyfriend, who's a musician, who made the music of the film, which was a very beautiful process as well. I started like paying somebody to give me editing consultations. I don't know if that's the word. That's well, like to be the editing consultant, and to pay for audio post-production. So that OLAV and the DCP, I started like distributing it. It had the international premiere at Outfest LA last year. And now I'm really glad that it's on Wicked Queer. So thanks for selecting it, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Leo Simchin Anyabu. I am Snowflake Calvert. And so the film that we are presenting is Chakim Yum. And so in my career, I'm a dancer, an artist. usually perform on stages, but I created a piece with my sister Javier, who's also here, and it was a stage performance. Yeah, it was a stage performance that we did, and it was exploring queer indigeneity, exploring gender and sexual fluidity on a stage performance. But then we had the idea, mainly because as an Indigenous person, my family's from Chiapas, Mexico. We're Batzicao, we're Indigenous, we're Mayan, and you know, I don't see a lot of representation in any media. And of people from Chiapas, Indigenous people. And so for me, it was really important to kind of show and create a piece of work that people can actually see and hopefully be inspired by, to show more representation and create more platforms for Indigenous people from Spanish-speaking countries. Oftentimes, you know, when we are depicted, you know, it is fetishization of our bodies, and it's also cultural appropriation. And so to actually show, you know, sexuality, to show kink in a queer context, but also in an Indigenous context, was super important to me in creating this art, and also plays into a lot of the work that I do in my dance career. Yeah, so it was really exciting to kind of take it from a dance performance into actual short film. The film has nothing to do with dancing, but it does relate to the actual story. And the story actually comes from something that my father once told me about the relationship of the rain and the corn in Chiapas. And so if you don't know, the Mayan people, we call ourselves the people of mud and corn, because in our creation story, that's how the creator made us. And, you know, corn is very sacred to Mayan people. It's not only just in our diet and most of the foods we eat, but it also relates to a lot of, you know, spiritual stories and cultural stories. And so the relationship between the rain god and the corn deity is a very powerful story that still plays into the daily life of people in Chiapas. And so for me, I wanted to explore, what does it look like to decolonize an Indigenous queer sex life? What does it look like for a person whose family comes from Chiapas living in the US in a Western context? And what does that look like to decolonize my gender, decolonize my sexuality, and also decolonize kink? You know, oftentimes in the BDSM world, you don't really see the proper representation of what it can look like in a way that isn't fetishization or cultural appropriation. So yeah, I'm very excited to be presenting this work.
I'll jump in really fast, if I may. Just really quickly that, well, first of all, Javier Stelfresca is here. I'm originally from the El Paso area and southern New Mexico area in the United States. My peoples are Piru and Tigua, Pueblo folks, as well as a mix of Europeans. And I'll add that I think there's been a really beautiful, interesting layer of this work with Snowflake, even before we worked with Rob for the Roberto for the film. It grew out of a dance performance and project that Snowflake and I began as an exploration of what it means to be two-spirit today in general. And with that, it grew, there's sort of a meta layer of our collaboration where I kind of participated, collaborated in our work as someone who is also of a people that are corn people. And so with that, we kind of like, it was a meditation really across 3-4 years. And it kind of wound up culminating in this film, which is sort of not a version, but there's a relationship between the dance performance that we did completely separately and the film that you'll see in these shorts.
Yeah, my name's Roberto. I'm one of the 2 directors along with Javi, who helped bring this film to life. And yeah, I come from the Raramuri people in northern Mexico. I have Spanish ancestors, and then also the Tewa speaking pueblos of Nambe and Pojoaque in New Mexico. So again, corn people. So, you know, I felt like there was this really beautiful ancestral connection that brought the 3 of us together to make this happen. I have my background's in experimental cinema and also in pornography too. I've worked in queer porn here in the Bay Area, kink and fetish porn in the Bay Area for about since about 2012, 2013. And so it was really beautiful to be a part of a project like this that, like you kind of said everything, Snowflake, just like decolonizing those practices for, you know, Latinx, indigenous, two-spirit, kinky people. It was very ritualistic and beautiful to be a part of this. So.
Hello, everyone. I am Marcin. This is Victor, and we are the directors from Victor's Body. That is a short documentary film that talks about the Victor's body, that is a disabled body, and he's a person with disability. And in this documentary, in the beginning of the process, we was talking about how we shared with the people how is to be in a body with a person of disability body. So that was the great challenge when we were shooting. So Victor, if you want to talk about your body a little bit.
Yes, and the film starts when I have the need. I don't speak English very well, so sorry. But the film.
So with the need when you want to see yourself
yes,
in the screen.
In the screen, because it's many films that show bodies with disabilities is always for the look.
It's always from the look from people that does not have disability.
Yes, and it's a very violent look. So the film, so Victor's body born from this need that I have.
And was it also started in college, like how to breathe out the water. We were in there was a subject that is documentary, so we were supposed to do a documentary. So we start talking about which film we would like to do. So that's when we started. It took like 2 months of preparation when we are discussing about which language we would choose and how the film all works. And we shoot in 2019, and we finished in the middle of 2020, right before pandemic starts. But it was also a process in pandemic. And I think that
and it's one more point that is so important to talk, is that our challenge is how to show this body with sexuality, because always that we have a film about a body like mine is always one body angelical and one body
not sexualized.
Yes.
It's not,
So this is our principal challenge,
to show a body that is beautiful and at the same time a disabled body that is not seen just a freak, because it's very common. It's very common that a disabled body is seen as freak or something different. No, we would like to say that it's a body that have needs, that have sexuality, and that is beautiful, I think, too.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your perspectives and your inspirations. There's an airplane going by right now. Thanks, airplane, for being in this interview as well. So next question, I would really like to know any interesting stories that you can share with us about making your films. It could be anything personal or emotional or a funny story, anything you would like to share. Can we start with How to Breathe Out of Water again?
Yeah, sure. Well, like I said earlier, this project started with a group of lesbian and bisexual women. So it was very important for them to talk about a lesbian protagonist that in a story that wasn't about coming out of the closet, or that didn't have, or that her relationship with her girlfriend, it's something that's very, it's something like from the day-to-day life, from their day-to-day life with the parents that already accepts them, etc. And it's funny to see different reactions from the movie. There are like different groups of people that can relate to different aspects of the story. For example, Black lesbian women have a different point of view about this movie than other groups, because the protagonist is a Black lesbian woman. And one thing that during the editing process, we showed the short movie to several people. And one of the person who was a straight cis man asked how relevant was the relationship between the protagonist and her girlfriend to the story. He couldn't see the need for it, for the narrative, or for her character, or for, he just couldn't understand how that, and he even used like terms from the screenplay books, like that doesn't drive the narrative, or some of the technical terms that weren't exactly what we were expecting to use in this film. We didn't want to follow the screenplay rules that the Academy dictates what a short movie should have. And we wanted the relationship between those two women to be the safe place in the protagonist's journey, you know? The place where she could go and feel safe, feel welcomed, feel loved. And that's what we portray in the movie. And because of that, this person in particular couldn't understand why that was relevant. And his suggestion was to remove the girlfriend from the narrative, which we thought was like insane, like how, like, and then there are plenty of reactions to the film that I think that really speaks to our first idea that we know that this movie is not gonna touch everyone, but we don't care that it doesn't, because we are talking from our point of view, the directors are talking from their point of view, and if someone doesn't understand, then okay, we don't need to make a film for this general, we want to talk about ourselves. We wanted to talk about ourselves and our films and how we want to make movies, you know? So that was something that came to my mind when we were talking about this, and the movies having like great reviews, and we hope that people can understand what we're saying, but if they don't, because of those, I don't know, prejudice, then that's fine. We don't, you know. I think that's it. That's all.
Nice. I really want to see all of your movies. Would be really great. About autoethnography, an interesting story is that there was like a sense in an earlier cut that I was giving this image about my mom, like a very cold and cold and apathic person. So I started like thinking, well, my relationship with my mom is not conflictive. It's like a very loving relationship, though she has a conservative mindset. You know, she's a biased middle 20th century woman who is very Catholic and all of that stuff. But I really think of her something very different, very different than what I told in the film, because in the film I was speaking about my childhood. So in the film, I say textually like, my mom was very intimidating, and I was afraid to not like reach her expectations. But that was something that happened in my childhood because that was real, that was what it felt. But right now I feel very different. So when I saw, well, when I showed it in screen test with relatives, they were telling me like, how would you think your mom is gonna react when she hears this? And then I started thinking, well, I might edit it a little bit more because I don't want that to be like the center of the story, because the film is about something else. But I think it's like a very centered thing I have to solve in my own life, you know, like coming to my mom and say to her at her face, like, I'm different, you know, I'm different, but I love you, and I know you love me, and let's keep up with this and let's live life this way. Because yeah, that was like something in the past. So an interesting story is that I decided to shoot an image that it's on the film, that it's when me and my mom are walking on the park. It's like a shot that's from the back, so you see our backs walking. The interesting story is that we shot that. I didn't tell my mother I was making a film. I just asked her, hey, can we be recorded walking in the park? Because I don't live with her a lot of years ago, so we see each other like not regularly. So that one time we saw each other, I asked her, and she said, yes, okay, let's do it. We started walking. We made like 3 attempts of the video. The first one was very awkward because it was like, I'm like acting, you know, like I'm like walking with my mother. That's something I I have done, but it's nothing like I regularly do. So the second time I just like ask her, like, how do you feel? This feels awkward, right? And she tells me, no, I'm fine. Do it your way. You have to make an image for your things, for your projects. Do it. So I was like thinking, and then I said, okay, let's do it again, but this time let's not hold, let's hold hands, let's not hug, but hold hands. And we started doing that. And I don't know, I didn't even plan it, but in the middle of the shot, I started talking to her, and my words started like flowing off. And at some point I started crying. And I started like saying to her like, mom, I really need to heal. I haven't been well lately. I felt really sad these last months. I haven't told you about it. I really think you and I haven't like concealed things in our past. You haven't accepted me as a whole, and I need you to accept me and to love me and to celebrate me. And she started crying too, and she was telling me that it was really weird because that exact same day she completed like 30 days of how do you say oración, like of prayers to me. Yeah, like 30 days of straight days praying for my wellness, for my happiness. And it was a kind of a ritual she was doing without telling me. So that was like very like weird because I have turned 30 like the month earlier. So yeah, that was like a very mystical family moment that was shot on video, you know, but it wasn't even planned. We didn't plan to have that conversation and to be that honest to each other. And I really think like the movie allowed that, and that specific shot allowed us to have like a very close, intimate, loving moment. And I really appreciate it and really like remember it. And I'm starting to cry again because it was so beautiful. But when I was editing it, I just said, well, I can leave just like the first bit of that and leave the rest for my own memories and my own life. But yeah, on the movie, there's like that little part where we're walking in the park. So yeah, that's like my interesting story of making my film.
Yeah, you know, something that like definitely comes up for us is one of the locations that we filmed at was the Stud SF, which is a gay bar that it's been around for decades. You know, it has so much history, you know, from the 60s and 70s, you know, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, and so many performers and so many artists have been able to build their careers, gotten their starts there. So many community activists, queer activists have done some incredible work out of this bar. So it definitely was more of a community center. And it wasn't a normal, you know, gay bar. It was definitely for the queer people, the people that meet the criteria on the LGBTQ spectrum without the G. So, you know, you have more different bodies, you know, people of different genders, of the non-binary people, the artists, you know, came there as like more of a community center, and, you know, it became historic. And, you know, we filmed there, and we were the last, film to ever be shot at the Stud, because a month later, the pandemic, COVID happened, and the shutdown. And it didn't make it through 2020, and the Stud had to close its doors. You know, and outside of it, it's very iconic. Had a wonderful mural created by Monica Canalau, who's an Indigenous Two-Spirit artist, and, you know, wonderful murals of different drag queens, queer art on the side. So the moment you get off the exit on the freeway in San Francisco, everybody had to pass by this. Inside was just so much history on the stage, let alone the rest of the bar. And, you know, when the doors closed, they gutted it, painted over the mural. And so there's no trace that anything queer ever happened at this bar. But the memory, the individual memories and the collective memories that the community has is really impactful and important, that we were able to archive kind of the last moments of this bar. And definitely was very meaningful to me, because a lot of the extras that we have filmed in it were a lot of community activists and organizers and leaders, queer activists that have been around for quite a while. So it's kind of nice to archive those people within that space.
Yeah, I want to add that was a really beautiful, the process of shooting this was really wonderful. And to me, in realizing that about the Stud, there's a way that, I don't know, the film and the archiving kind of parallels, like holding on to little nuggets of our history and resisting the sort of cultural amnesia that can happen when so many of our cultures and spaces are attacked, whether we're queer or indigenous or both. And that with that, the part of the strength and holding the container that allowed me to go there as an actor while directing the film was that our whole team, brought together by primarily Snowflake and Roberto, were indigenous or people of color and queer. In other words, there was no one in the room who was giving us the fetishizing gaze or something else, you know? And so that kind of, not just representation, but nuanced way of holding the creative process and our stories is something that we also bring to the film, and that we hope will kind of ripple outwards into the venues that where we shoot, or the venues where we present this film, film festivals, etc. And this is so nice to be able to share in this film festival as well, because I think hopefully a lot of our audience already is thinking about and making that more and more the case.
uh, Victor. During the making of the film, Victor's body became also on the therapeutic process. Some words that I said in movie I never said out loud before. And that made me realize the way I saw and treat my body was the way that ableism look has taught me to. And ableism, if you don't know, is the oppression and the prejudice with people with any disability.
And another thing that was kind of interesting during the shooting, because I live with Victor and we are married, and I live with him for 7 years, and I've never seen he crying, never seen him crying at all. So when we were shooting and he talks about his mother and all the things that happen in the moment of the delivery, he starts to cry, and it was something that I was shocked, I was not expecting. But at the same time, as a director, I was, oh my God, this is perfect. But at the same time, I was, oh my God, he's crying what I do. So it was very nice. And I think that all this process when he cries, and as he said, this was a therapeutic process also. And he directed, but at the same time, he was in a therapeutic process. So and I'm very glad that with the film we can share this discussion with people, that and the disability thing is something that it's never talked at all. So I'm very happy that our film is in many festivals, and we are sharing this word, and we are sharing this film, and I'm very glad to be here also.
Thank you guys for sharing all these wonderful stories. We are almost out of time, so I wanted to ask one last question. I'm really interested to know, I'm sure everyone is, to know what sort of projects you guys have in the works. I know sometimes you can't, exactly say everything they're gonna do. Sometimes there are like secret negotiations going on and stuff like that. But I would really like to know what you're working on, and whatever you can share with us, any sort of information, especially if it's queer, because I think we're all interested in that. So yeah, please take it away.
Well, Victoria and Julia have a project together that it's about a lesbian bar about to be shut because of the economic crisis. So when Snowflake talked about the bar where everyone shot the film, I thought, well, that's also happening in Brazil, in São Paulo, a queer bar, a queer space that is suffering from the economic crisis. And Victoria and Julia have a project about that they are writing. They hopefully will direct together. I'm going to produce that short movie as well. And I have a project that I'm going to direct about queer people experimenting, going out of their comfort zone in a party, and talking about monogamy and open relationship and all this kinds of relationship that we hope to use the same crew as How to Breathe Underwater, but in different positions. Like I'm going to direct and produce, Victoria is going to produce, Julia is going to do the sound. So we really love the fact that we are like a crew that can rotate in different positions and make several short movies. And I know Victoria is also working in several screenplays for other short movies focused on the queer community and especially Black protagonists. And yeah, hopefully we can go back to the Wicked Queer in the future with different movies and see everyone in different festivals. It will be awesome.
My current project is something I started to think about as a documentary. I have done mostly documentaries, so that was something like natural to me, like to think about something documentarily, but on the process, I started realizing that it might better be like a fiction short film, like something I haven't done in like a decade, like writing fiction or creating a character or stuff like that. Haven't done it in a long time, so it's like doing films for the first time. It's so difficult. But yeah, it has to do with nail polishing. Right now, I don't have my nails made, but I do my nails regularly, like every week. I started doing it myself because that was like part of me understanding like how I wanted to feel with my body and what kind of like appearance to have, like experimenting with my own body, physical appearance, gender expression, etc. So I started like painting my nails and going to nail polishing beauty ateliers, like hairdressing rooms and stuff, and like getting to know all kinds of sensations around nails and how people does their own nails or does nails for other people. I'm very particularly obsessed with the notion of labor work. That's something like very like the centerpiece of everything I do, like to criticize labor and to think about labor artistically. So this would be like a film about a cis woman that does nails, like that's her job, meeting a non-binary person who's about to get their nails done for the first time. And it's like something that it's not necessarily a conflict. I'm starting to think about it mostly as a comedy. So yeah, that's like my current idea, returning to fiction and to make it as queer as possible.
Yeah, for me, so I'm focusing more on my dance career. So I'm a collaborator for a project called the Try Project. And so we are our European tour as well as a more East Coast tour, as well as to Brazil. And the work itself, the Try Project, is queer experimental improv, where we explore multicultural, multi-generational queerness and queer futurism, time, place, and land, and what our relationship is to different spaces and the histories there. So we basically create a beautiful queer world that's interactive for people to join into. And then I'm also a part of a documentary about Valley, North Texas, in Dallas, Texas, about one of the pieces that I created called Pigeons in the Park. So yeah, check out on that.
For me, I'm working on my first like fully narrative short film. It's a sci-fi Latinx indigenous film called Do Digital Curanderas Use Eggs in Their Limpias. And it's being produced through the Sundance Film Institute's Indigenous Film Fellowship, which I got in 2020. And I actually wrote this script back then, but we haven't been able to shoot it because of the pandemic. So finally, we just wrapped production on it a couple of weeks ago. So I'm gonna go into the editing process starting on Monday, and then hopefully like in the next year, have it out and ready to go. I'm just so excited for it. Just a beautiful sci-fi drama about Latinx, Indigenous, queer, intersex, non-binary people. It's starring River Gallo, who's this really amazing intersex activist, El Salvadorian, Indigenous person. And I just love the team we got to work with, and I'm so excited. So yeah, that'll be out hopefully next year. Also, I'm so excited to see everybody's movies. You all are amazing. Oh my God.
It's Robbie.
Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong button. Our next film is a short film that it's called Bittersweet Power, and we were in post-production and we finished in December. So we premiered January in Brazil. So we are currently looking for another another places to premiere. And it is a film about that talks about possibilities and the power of the bodies of people with disability body, but it's also an intersection with disability and queerness. So we would like to portray this body in a different way, in a way that we can naturalize, not only see violence and not see all the thing that is very common, unfortunately, but we'd like to share this other look of the bodies that has pleasure, bodies that are happy, bodies that live a life with so strong things. So that is our next film, and we are currently looking in our we're currently working in our first feature film, but unfortunately we cannot share much things. But it's a queer also, and it also has disability in all of the work, but we are very, very excited to share soon.
Nice. I'm very excited to watch all of that in the coming, like the near future, hopefully, right? Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much. I think the films are just amazing. I hope everyone watching this at home can appreciate all the effort, and the work that went into it, and can join us again next year. And yeah, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.